Hey guys, today we're going to take a look at the new Kevlar Havik-15 paddles from Maverix. Both the Havik-15 paddles are thermoformed and use the same shape Maverix introduced with their first paddle, the Havik-16. They're elongated at 16.5 by 7.5 with 5.3 inch handles, though these newer models now have 15mm polypropylene cores instead of 16mm. As for the shape, it's Maverix's own custom shape that is neither rectangular or curved, but we'll talk more about its playability later. The difference between the two Havik-15 paddles is the paddle surface. The Pro model uses a carbon fiber and Kevlar blend, while the All-Court model only uses carbon fiber. For the swing weight and twist weight measurements, we got 117 and 6.40 for the Pro model, and 117 and 6.45 for the All-Court model, so the two are about the same. For an elongated paddle, that 117 is on the lower end, with the average generally being around 122 for an elongated Gen 2. This is because of the shape, which is unique to Maverix, and because of the slightly thinner core. They've cut the top corners of the paddle at an angle instead of using a pure flat top or curved top you usually see in elongated shapes. With this, it seems they've distributed the weight more away from the head, which helps cut the swing weight down to that low number. Now, thinner core paddles generally have lower swing weights and twist weights, but with this shape, Maverix has managed to keep the swing weight in line with the 15mm paddle, while also making the twist weight numbers higher and in line with the 16mm paddle to improve the stability. While both Havik-15 paddles will have solid forgiveness in sweet spots, this weight distribution does affect the reach of the paddle slightly, since the weight has been distributed more towards the sides instead of the head. You'll notice that this shape compared to traditional elongated shapes will have less forgiveness near the top of the paddle, and you overall have less reach, but this is just a trade-off you get with the weight distribution. Basically, you keep a low swing weight and have a high twist weight, but you lose out on reach and power on drives when compared to other elongated shapes. Moving on to the core, there aren't that many 15mm paddles that exist on the market, making the Havik-15 paddles pretty unique feeling. Most paddles use that 16mm core thickness, and thinner paddles are generally 13 or 14mm, so a 15mm option is pretty rare. And like the number itself, the Havik-15s both have a feel that is in between a 14 and 16mm Gen 2 paddle. It's quicker to swing than most 16mm in its shape, but not the 14mm. It's not as poppy as a 14mm paddle, but it's also not as plush as a 16mm. The power is in between both as well. You don't get the plow through of a 16mm paddle, but it's more than that of a 14mm. What's interesting between the All-Court and the Pro version of the Havik-15s is how the Pro is the more poppy paddle, despite it being the one that has Kevlar mixed into the surface. Now, in my experience, Kevlar has generally given paddles a softer feel compared to their carbon fiber variants. Though there are some exceptions like the Spartus Apollo and the Thrive Azul, and the way the Kevlar is applied onto the Havik-15 Pro must be similar because it's a stiffer and more powerful option between the two Havik-15 paddles. It's more poppy and powerful, but has less control compared to the All-Court. I would say the All-Court plays like an in-between of a 14 and 16mm, so think of the feel like an in-between of a 14 and 16mm double black diamond, while the Pro is a bit harder to control because it gives you more pop and power. As for the spin, there wasn't any noticeable spin difference between the two. I think they both provide high amounts and both rival other thermoform paddles on the market. Overall, I think both Havik-15 paddles are solid, and they're a bit unique feeling compared to existing Gen 2 paddles because of their 15mm core and custom shape. I'd recommend them if you're looking for a little more pop compared to a 16mm, but don't want to drop down to a 14mm option. I wouldn't say it's better than existing core thickness options on the market right now, but it's definitely a nice addition and one I can see other companies adopting more in the future. Now, between the two models, I recommend the All-Court for the majority of people to test out, but if you did want something with a bit more pop and power, then I think the Pro would be the better choice. If you do want to pick either of the Havik-15 paddles up, I've added my discount code here and in the video description below.
Almost got it.